Okay, so we had rain, and now we have gopher mounds, and I've set some gopher traps. These gopher hawks have been absolutely a game changer out here for me. I've had them now for, I think, about a year, and I'll tell you, I've probably caught over 100 gophers, not even kidding you. Right here, this is all from one, and he just started these because these weren't here yesterday, so overnight he's made 3 mounds. There might be some more, but these are 3 fresh mounds. I just put 2 traps in place. Really easy to find the runs on these, mainly because the ground is wet, and when it's wet they don't collapse in like they would if it was really dry, so sometimes it's hard to find the mounds in really soft sand, but because everything's nice and wet now, there's actually a chance I'll catch this guy just sitting here watching. What you do is you just pay attention to the tops of those gopher hawks, and if they start to move, you'll know that he's trying to clear a path where you blocked it with the snare. Doesn't always mean you're going to catch one, but there's usually a pretty good likelihood that you will. And the gophers are pretty dang active, especially since he's made 3 mounds, probably just this morning. So if I sit here for a while, it's kind of like fishing. You can sit here for a little while and you'll probably catch something if you're patient enough. So, interesting repair here at the cabin. One of the shower handles decided it wanted to start non-functioning, and the shower sprayer wouldn't shut off. So I'm going to replace the cartridge here. I'm kind of halfway through this before I decided I figured I'd probably record this. But I removed the handle, which basically is a little retaining screw on the side. Once the handle's off, you can unscrew this piece that surrounds it. So then this piece comes off. It's just 2 Phillips head screws. Then you have a little plastic retainer, and you have a little ring, little collar that goes around there. So this is all the stuff that'll come off. First, you're going to take this piece off right here, and then this piece off right here, and this is just simply to align the handles, and then this piece will slide off. Once that piece is off, you're ready to remove this little retaining clip. Then you take the clip off, then you put this little tool on to pull out the old cartridge so I can replace it with a new cartridge. Okay, so I have the old cartridge out. These things just kind of fall off. Can't really tell what's broken with it, to be honest with you. It must be a seal on the inside. But the signs were the handle was really hard to turn for a while. Then it kind of felt like it broke loose, and the shower just wouldn't shut off. Have the new cartridge in. I simply used the grease that was included with the cartridge, applied it to these little rubber seals, and then slid it back into place. That should be all you really need to do, and then just reassemble everything. The cartridges are interesting because these are essentially what's called a Moen single handle cartridge, and you can get aftermarket brands. You can find them on Amazon. The Moen one's like $55. The aftermarket one, which is pretty much identical, is like $35, and then you can get the tool for $12, so you end up spending just about as much on the tool and the cartridge as you would on just an actual OEM Moen cartridge. But this should work fine for us. Hopefully it lasts a long time. But again, this is one of those pretty simple to do-it-yourself repairs at the house. A plumber would probably charge about $350, $400 to do this, maybe not even including the part. It's very simple, something that you can do yourself. And if you want to look at what all that looks like back there, it's not very complex. I know a lot of people think the minute you see something like this go out, you wonder if you have to do like major surgery to your wall to get to this, and you really don't, unless this piece right here breaks, which heaven forbid that piece breaks. But then if that breaks, you got bigger problems, and you really got to turn the water off as quickly as you can. But we're going to go and get the handle, everything installed. We're going to turn the water back on and see how it works. Okay, so I have the cover back on, the sleeve back on, the inner portion back on and lined up, and then I have the outer portion. It's stopped right now, means the water's off. Very good. All right, there's the off position. So all we need to do now is put the handle back on. Okay, handle is back on. Sprayer's there. Make sure it heats up. Okay, we're good. Smooth as butter. Yep, super easy to do. You can get the part replacement cartridge on Amazon, you can get it at Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, maybe. I doubt it though, so I wouldn't make a trip to Walmart assuming they have it if you have a Lowe's or a Home Depot nearby. But pretty quick repair. I'd say if you've done it before, you could probably knock the whole thing out in 10 minutes. If you've never done it before, with all the YouTube videos and things you'll have to follow just to kind of get it done, maybe 15, 20 minutes. Super quick, super affordable, and it's something you can absolutely do yourself. Just make sure you turn the water off before you do it. And you may have to fiddle with it a little bit in terms of aligning things, just so when you turn the water back on, the handle's in the right position whenever it's on and off. Very cool though, very easy. So, the cicadas always come out the minute I start recording. But another beautiful day out here at the property. Unfortunately, my wife is under the weather, so she's inside resting, and I'm going to hang out around the cabin just so I'm here for her in case she needs me. But we have another typical day out here. Basically, I'm going to be changing the oil on the Toro again. We are at 176.9 hours, so this thing certainly gets some use out here. This is that new and improved garbage tote that my neighbor welded up for me and made significantly stronger. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and drain the oil out and get new oil put in. So we are draining the oil out. This takes a little over 2 quarts of oil, so it takes a little while, but you want to open up the bottom cap like that and then simply loosen your oil cap up top, relieve the pressure. That should let it all drain out. Definitely time to change this oil. We have about 60 hours on it since the last oil change. I think it's like every 100 hours, but I usually like to keep up with it because we use the heck out of this mower and definitely don't want it to fail only because you didn't change the oil and filter. So we're doing that right now. Let that drain. I'm going to go ahead and get the oil. Yep, that's the one. So again, it takes a little over 2 quarts of oil. Got my 2 quarts right there. I use the Kawasaki engines. It's interesting because buying it on Amazon, I get 5 quarts for like $40. Buying it locally, it's like $9 a quart. So it's actually a pretty big savings. So here's my filter, 49065-0721. While we're at it, let's check the air filter out. Yeah, I think we need to clean that out a little bit too. So we'll go ahead and clean that off also. Yep, it's pretty dirty. Okay, so I have the outer filter replaced. The inner filter still looked fine. Just got to remove the oil filter now. It's pretty much drained. You don't want this thing too tight either. I think the problem a lot of people have is they over-tighten their oil filter. I'm just going to quickly kind of cover up that spot where the oil will drip out onto. It's kind of designed here so it pours out and over this as well. You can see the little ridge there. And it follows this over and it drains out. But it still makes a little bit of a mess in the process. So we'll just kind of loosen that a bit so the oil can come out of there. And then it'll just pour down here as well. Okay, we'll let that drain out a little bit back there, and then we'll wipe all that up, get the new filter on. Okay, so I took a little bit of the oil that was coming off. I greased the little rubber seal on the oil filter, and then I reinstalled it by hand. You pretty much only want to get this about as hand tight as you can get it. You don't want to have to use tools to do it because you may actually damage it. There we go. So that is on and it is tight. Now we just need to put the cap back on the drain hose and then fill it up with fresh oil. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the oil, a dipstick back in, close it off. I'm going to clean up a little bit down here where I spilled just a little bit of oil. And I'll start the mower, let it run for a little while, and then I'll come back and I'll check the mower after it cools down for a second. Okay. Okay, so next mower is going to be the SCAG. Got my oil filter for it right here. This is the 490650724. So this is for the FX1000 and this is for the FX750. And the operating manual for the SCAG says that you need to change the oil after the first 25 hours and then after each subsequent 100 hours. So we're at 25 hours on the SCAG. We use it quite a bit for mowing. We just don't use it for all the other stuff that we use the Toro for. So it's time to change the oil on the SCAG. Okay, and everything's in pretty much the same position as it was on the Toro. They put a little holder up here for your oil drain, though, so you just have to kind of fish it out. See if we can get to it here. There we go. And then feed it down here. Right there. And that should allow us to drain the oil out. So I'm going to take this cap off first. Okay, oil's coming out. I'm going to loosen the oil cap. And it'll come out a little quicker. There we go. I'll take a little bit to drain. I'll let it do that for a little while, and then I'll come back and pull off the oil filter. And the oil capacity for both the Toro and the SCAG is 2.1 quarts. So after I fill it up with the 2 quarts, I come back after running it for a little bit, and I have an open quart right here that I just pour a little bit in just to top it off. Because again, 2.1, not 2 quarts. But this mower should just about be done. Yep, just have a little bit left. We'll go ahead and pop off the oil filter, swap that out, and change the oil. Okay, so we are at a point now where we can go and pull off the oil filter. Okay, this thing was on there tight from the factory, so I got it loosened now. Go ahead and get it taken off. There we go. Always good to have a little rag around you. Okay. Now we'll get this back in place. I want to get that nice and tight, hand tight. Don't want to go too tight. All right, that should be good. I'll wipe off some of the excess oil that's down here, and some that drip down here as well. So we have the oil emptied out, new filter on. Go ahead and put the cap back on. Alright, cap is back on. We can route it back up through here. Just like that. Alright, it's out of the way. Let's go ahead and get the oil back in. Fresh oil back in. Get it started up. Okay, so we have fresh oil in now. Just have to reinsert the dipstick. Well, actually I need to take my funnel out. Now I can reinsert the dipstick. Make sure that it's in there, nice and clean. Okay, we're done. Going to run the SCAG for a little bit, then I'll add just a little bit more oil to the top of it to get that to that 2.1 quarts of oil. All right, I'm going to clean up the mess, get the SCAG started and running, and we should be in good shape. So something I found out that I don't like about this, and I'm probably going to have to switch to different types of clamps here. I can't open up my little service top right here anymore because this bottom clamp is in the way. And yeah, that's not a good position for it. So I may consider permanently attaching this to that rollover protection so I don't even need to worry about the screws here, the bolts right here. And that would actually work out really well. I can get my buddy to maybe weld a bead on the top here and then maybe a couple more on the bottom sides to keep that in place. But yeah, I think we are good to go. The problem here is that if I don't lift this up, I can't remove my air filter cover, and I can't change the air filter, so I might end up taking that off here today just so I can get to the air filter and check it out. Okay, so both mowers have their oil changed. I just changed the oil in the tractor about, I'd say about 10 hours back, so it should be fine. At least it's going to be fine for another like 100 hours, I think. But I got to looking at the SCAG, and I got to looking at this thing right here that covers the top part of the engine, and if I actually needed to remove this or not. If I wanted to lift this up and tilt it back, I definitely would need to remove that. But then I got to kind of figuring out why this is even here. I understand it's possibly some type of a protector for the engine. I don't really know what it would protect it against. When I look at the Toro, it's completely exposed. And when I look at a lot of motors, they're completely exposed. So I think I might just take this off. I don't see any practical reason why this is on here. And at this point, it's more of an inconvenience than anything. So we're going to unbolt it. It's just a bolt on this side and a bolt on this side, and the whole thing should come off. But it appears to be built pretty well, like it was really thought out with how they designed this. I just don't see any practical reason why it's here, because it's not really protecting the motor from anything. I guess unless, you know, I hit a tree and it happens to fall and it doesn't decapitate me, it hits this part, it might protect the engine a little bit. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to take this thing off and see what happens. Okay, so I got it off. It's not overly robust in terms of its build. It's actually pretty thin, and like I said, it's not what it I guess somebody could say it might be like a brace, but it's not really strong enough or rigid enough to be a brace. But like I said, they put some thought into this. This is the little hinge that it uses to roll up on, and you know, I could imagine if you ordered this stuff aftermarket, it'd probably cost you a pretty penny. But again, I'm just really confused as to why it's even here. Maybe it's just to kind of cover up this little area so it looks a little cleaner. But you can see they actually built the steel to come all the way up this way just to support it. So this wasn't an afterthought. This was definitely something that was purposely put here. I just don't know why, for the life of me. I really don't. Maybe there's a different motor option where something different goes there. Something else I kind of figured out, which was interesting, as I was removing the parts, the ratchet I was using got caught right here. And I didn't know what it got caught in until I found out that these are magnetic. So on the sides of the engine, you have this cover, and you have access to it with these magnetic little flaps right here. Interesting, huh? So that's magnetic right there, and it's also magnetic on this side. So I get the point of all this. You're protecting the engine. But as far as that cover right there, still trying to figure it out. It actually makes it a little nicer not to have it there because I have easier access to this area right here. So I can tilt my seat up if I want to. And now it's completely open. So not having that on seems to be a big benefit at this point, but maybe someone from SCAG can come on and explain to me why that is even there, because it just doesn't make sense to me. It seems like a lot of additional cost just to cover this area up when it doesn't really do much. Anyways, that was interesting. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah, just changed oil in both of the mowers. It was definitely time for the Toro. I know it's coming up on time for the SCAG. I think I read where the little computer up there, the indicator that you need to change your oil automatically resets. I don't know how it does that. There was no sensor or anything that triggered it to reset, so when I ran the mower, it was still flashing. So maybe there's something else I need to do. But yeah, it's a pretty quick process. Nothing really difficult about it at all. But now I can get to my air filter. So I don't have to worry about that piece blocking it. And I can get in here and I can clean out my air filter. So that's definitely a perk. All right. Well, guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again real soon.